Welcome. I am Gary Adams, Director of Design and Project Management for CMS. Is that better? Okay, thank you. Gary Adams, Director of Design and Project Management for CMS. Thank you for being here tonight. We are here to talk about, obviously, the Dilworth Latta Elementary School renovation to a middle school. We appreciate the support of the 2023 bond. Wanted to introduce a few folks here tonight. Terry Surbeck, Assistant Superintendent of Student Programs, Planning and Placement, in the back. And Principal Crawford, also there in the back, thank you. And wanted to emphasize that the presentation tonight is specifically for the design and construction logistics for the project. So there may be other questions that you have. We'll try our best to answer, but may not have the groups here that would be appropriate to answer those, so we will do our best there. I am going to hand this over to Vincent Spencer, one of our design managers now, for some further introductions and information.
Thank you so much, Gary. I want to invite everyone to scan this QR code. If you can't scan it from the distance, I'm going to invite you to come closer because we're all friendly here. Nobody's going to bite. Nobody's going to yell at you. But if you can, please scan the QR code that we have on the screen. Just like all of our CMS educational environments, we want to request and endorse and solicit your feedback because we are always wanting to learn and improve, just like our students. We're always wanting to learn and improve, so we want your feedback. So when you scan that QR code, it's going to take you to that image that you see on my left and your right. It is the feedback link tree. We want you to click on that, and it's going to take us through a quick couple series to get us warmed up because this is going to be an interactive presentation. The architect of record is here, and they're going to go through the information that we have before you, and then there's going to be a Q&A session, but we want to make sure every voice here is heard. So we want you to participate in this brief moment. I know most of us here are probably out of school, but we do have a test here, so we ask that you do participate. First question that we have is, what excites you about this project? We're going to see your answers live up on this screen. Again, this is another way to make sure that our system is working properly because we're also going to take questions at the end of the presentation and get your feedback. So we're seeing great things already. Full, fresh, middle, magnet, improvement, modern facilities. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating and giving those great words. We know that there is a lot of great things here happening in store for the Dilworth Latta project. This is when you see the word getting larger, that means we're seeing a repeat, community being settled, the new school opening. Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. We're going to go on to the next one here. And that was all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for running that test. And again, we're going to do a Q&A session here at the end of the presentation. It'll have a similar format. We're going to ask for your direct feedback about the presentation, and then we're going to take specific questions as relate to everything that you see. So now I'm going to turn it over to our architects of the project, represented by Berg. We have with us Alexandra Rios and Tom Gragnano, and they're now going to give a presentation on the project here today. Thank you.
Okay, are we on? All right. All right, well, thank you very much for having us here. Again, my name is Tom Gragnano with Berg Architects, and Alexandra Rios, who is the project manager and lead project designer on the project. So we are very excited to be here with you. We appreciate the privilege of being able to present our progress at this point on the project. And we do, again, consider it a privilege, we might say, to be a part of projects like this, K through 12 work. We realize it's very important to people in the community, and again, we take it very seriously, and we consider it a privilege to be a part of. So thank you for including us and allowing us to be here to present. So we're just going to give you an idea of what we're going to cover tonight. First of all, we'll just introduce the project in terms of where we're at, a little overview, start with the existing conditions in terms of the overall campus, talk a little bit about schedule and logistics when it comes to construction, and then provide a design update in terms of the repurposing and renovation of the school, and then have an opportunity for question and answer. So just really quickly, as far as high-level project status, we're about 50% of the way through what we call design development right now. So we're still working on the documents in terms of design and working through details associated with the design with CMS. We've been at it for several months now doing that, and while we're doing that, we also have with us our CM partners here from DA Everett, the construction managers, and they've been busy working behind the scenes doing surveying of the school, utility investigations, helping us out, cost estimating, things like that, so that we can hit the ground running in the summer of 2026 with construction. Also not with us here are a host of other people, engineers that support what we do. Actually sitting right here is our civil engineer on the project, Brian Crutchfield from Timmons Group. I don't see anyone else on our design team here. Oh yeah, Kirsten from Stewart Engineering, so our structural engineering team. So that's nice to see. So obviously this is where we're at. You know, the Dilworth Elementary School is right in the heart of the historic district, so that presents some unique challenges in itself, but challenges that we're starting to embrace as we engage more and more with the Historic District Commission and with the community. Let me see here. Let me go forward here.
Testing.
Okay, so Alexandra is just going to give us a little bit of overview of the existing conditions.
Yeah, so this is a very quick overview. So obviously this is a very rich campus that's very rich in history. It's also situated in a nice wooded environment that we're so lucky and excited to be working on. Technically, the campus is just one building that we're in right now. It's just a long one, but for the purposes of this project and for this presentation, we've identified 3 buildings in the sequence in which they were built. So, starting from the left, you'll look at Building A. Thank you, Tom. This one's typically, we call it the Euclid building because it's along Euclid Ave. This is our oldest building on site. It's a historic building that was built in 1904. Following that, we go into the right, to building B. This one is further divided into building B1 and B2. B1 is where we're at right now. Includes our dining, nutrition, and our administration, and most of our classrooms. Whew, I need to take a breather. Attached to this one is B2. This is a later addition from 1991, and this one includes our media center. Tying the two buildings together, we have building C, and that is where we have our gym space. This site is very interesting in the sense that CMS has a joint use agreement with Parks and Rec. So on the first floor of building C, you'll have the Tom Sykes Recreation Center on the first floor, and then the second floor is where you have the gym. So surrounding the building, you have the soccer fields above, tennis courts below, and then overflow parking. Zooming out a little bit more, you'll see the full site. So the red line is our site, our parcel. What we want to focus here is the circulation on the site. So with the green light here, green line, you will see how parents walk into the site. So this is where we have our queuing line for parents drop off and pick up. So they come in through Myrtle Ave, and they get dropped off usually where the Star is, where it's our main entrance is located at the moment. Our buses come in from the south, from East Park Avenue and take a left into Euclid Ave. And again, kids are dropped off in the center of the campus. So the center of the campus is where the main entrance is and a lot of this activity is happening, this activity node. So it's not necessarily super visible from our points of entries on the street right now. And a lot happens here in the mornings and the evenings. Parking is fairly limited. So our visitors or staffs are right here on the north below the soccer fields with some overflow parking where Tom is pointing for staff and visitors below the tennis courts. I believe that's it.
Okay.
This is zooming in a little bit more now. Now we're looking at how the building is being used currently. So note the colors, they will change later on. But this is our elementary program. So a couple things to note here. If you look at Building C, which is in the middle, Building C, first floor, below, the red area that's crosshatched like that, that is the Parks and Rec suite. We are not touching that. That's still gonna be there. But the white space that's in that building is currently unoccupied space that we are proposing to reuse when we turn this into a middle school. All of our classrooms are the orange, like you see. Again, our entrance is right here in the middle of the campus. And something to note here is our administration currently is located here in building B1. Another thing to note is we have a stage here right next to our nutrition cafeteria space, which is right there. But we also have a second, a stage next to the gym. So there's a little bit of consolidation that will hopefully take place when this turns into a middle school. The rest is pretty straightforward. One of the challenges, obviously, that we've been facing, working with, but it's also a really nice puzzle, is fitting a middle school program inside of this existing building footprint.
All right. So that gives us an overview, basically a starting point of where we're at now in terms of the circulation and the floor plans. We wanted to just, before we get into the design progress, just give you a little overview, high level of schedule. So as I said, when we first started out, this is us here today in November of 2025. So we have been at the design process now for several months, but that process will continue into next year as we complete our construction documents and also go through a regulatory approval process. We have a process coming up here in the next couple of weeks with the historic district. And then after that, we'll have to go through some others with Mecklenburg County. Then we'll hand it off to our CM, who for a few months will work on the bidding and contracts portion of the project. And then in August of 2026 is when construction will kick off. That'll last about 1 year until the summer of 2027, when the school will be ready for that 2027 calendar year. So a lot of details that are not up there, but that gives us an overview. One of the other things that we like to talk about that sometimes comes up in these presentations that provide kind of, again, a high-level explanation of what we're going to do during construction is what we call a logistics plan. Our CM partners can tell you there's a lot more to this from day to day than what we see here, but high level, what we're going to do during construction, of course, is have a very well-planned, professional approach to things, as we always expect out of our CMS and CM partners. Projects we find are generally run very well and things done in a very safe manner. Starting with the fact that we'll have a fence all the way around the site to define what is construction and have some controlled access points during construction. A lot of questions likely about the surrounding fields. During construction, the tennis courts and these public areas will be accessible for a period of time. Also, the Tom Sykes Recreation Center will be accessible. Parking will be limited within the site. That'll probably be taken up by the construction process. And then access to the tennis court, of the soccer fields, of course, will still be there. Now, since we are going to eventually touch every portion of the school, whether it's through utility renovation or finishes or codes or something, it might not be that we're churning every wall, but at some point every portion of the school is going to have to be touched for one reason or another, including the existing gymnasium and that recreation center area. So the work that takes place in there may be about a 4 to 6 month period of time. That doesn't mean that the rec center will be closed for that period of time. More details will come as the schedule develops. But there'll definitely be some limited access for a period of time when we have to get in there and do some work. During that time, again, this area will remain open, but obviously access to the building will be closed at that point.
Okay, so what are the changes here? So we just went over the existing and how the traffic and circulation goes through. One of our subtle but most impactful changes will be moving what that main entrance location is going to be. So if you remember on the previous slide, our star/main entrance was where Tom was pointing. Now it is further along the drive to one of these corners in building B1. Tom will explain this in detail when we go through the floor plans, but what this allows us to do is it allows us to fit in more of that stacking and queuing for the parent drop-off so that hopefully some of that potential overflow doesn't spill into Myrtle Ave, which is, I believe, what's happening currently. In terms of buses, the traffic pattern remains relatively the same. I think we can fit a little bit more, but we are going to, again, go in through East Park Ave and then take a left onto Euclid. Student coming from buses will drop off in the same location, but then parent drop-off students will go into this main entrance, and we'll talk about that more. Our pedestrian access remains intact, and we're not going to touch the soccer fields or the tennis fields, so all of that and the parking will remain as is.
So while it's a subtle change, one of the biggest changes here is the fact that we're separating the drop-off here and creating a little bit less activity right in this central area. The other thing is that by getting the entrance closer to this corner of the school, it allows for better just recognition of the school entrance, better security from that perspective. And as Alexandra mentioned earlier, we'll talk about that in a second, and another floor plan change that is driving the relocation of the entrance and also improve security when it comes to the floor plan.
Zooming in more, now we're looking at what this proposed floor plan is going to look like. Sorry, we'll do questions at the end. So one of the main things, like we talked about, is the main entrance moving to this corner now. Like Tom mentioned, is going to create more visibility from the street, point of entry. It's also going to bring that entrance vestibule up to the current CMS standard. So we're going to be aligned with that. One of the other things we're doing on site here is we are moving our trash enclosure to the more center of the campus to better serve our new renovated kitchen area. And then last but not least, we're also going to remove these 2 mobile classrooms that are on site currently. So this will give us the opportunity to have more outdoor space and potential some outdoor classrooms for some of these classrooms that are being proposed for this area. Natural light as well.
And this is, again, zooming in just a little bit more on that circulation pattern. As we mentioned earlier, they are subtle changes, moving the entrance here. and also just some changes in the site work here, creating a little bit of a plaza here, some additional signage, again, to do our best to identify this as an entrance. Unfortunately, changing the building envelope is not an option, and in the historic district, doing something like was done back here in 2003 with a grand two-story entrance is just not in the cards right now. So we're doing what we can, whatever budget and the historic district will allow us to do in order to make that as identifiable as possible. The other thing that we're identifying here again is the fact that we're separating those drop-off points so that we have controlled access for bus riders and then for parent drop-off, and that's associated with a new secure vestibule and the new admin area here. So this is the overall floor plan again. Alexandra mentioned just to kind of take note of some of the color changes. I know you didn't memorize the color changes before, but there was a lot more orange on the slide before because those elementary classrooms kind of wrapped all the way around here. So this is a major change in the floor plan in terms of use. Another major change that we'll see in a second is the use of that first floor space. And then with the middle school program, these blue turquoise spaces that start to show up are to support the CTE program. And then also, well, not in our legend here, this is these are our science classrooms. So a typical baseline CMS middle school would be 45 classrooms total, 36 general classrooms, and 9 science classrooms. Obviously, since we're working within the envelope of the existing building, we're not building a full baseline CMS middle school. We're doing what we can to fit as much of that program into this school. So our total classroom count here, along with electives, is at 30. Whereas in that baseline school, the total number of classrooms is 54. And the reason I bring that up is because it ties into some of the other things that we're doing as we move forward. For example, this space here that we're in. So this is where we're at now. We're not making any major changes to the envelope here, this space, but one of the things we're doing is this wall right here is going to change. The stage will come out. And it's going to be, this area behind us is going to be repurposed to become the science classrooms. So it's great access. Typically in the middle school program, those are the earth sciences, so great access to the outside. The media center will be refreshed, along with some updated spaces for that middle school program, a key one being the active maker space. This area here is totally renovated and reconfigured. It was classrooms before to be that new admin space. The kitchen behind us is being completely renovated and also expanded. And then a new direct access to the exterior for service here. Where admin is now, some churn will take place there in order to provide better staff support spaces, wellness spaces, student services, guidance. And then with the mobiles being removed and that space being removed, we'll be able to do a visual arts classroom with direct access to the exterior and natural light. These other classrooms will experience a refresh with finishes and some removal of casework here, but there'll be other things that'll be done throughout the school to modernize, as we saw in one of the words that came up on the screen, throughout the entire school. This is that core area, Building C. So this is the gymnasium. No major changes in the gymnasium other than the fact that that stage space will be reconfigured a little bit because now there's a visual arts classroom back there. They'll need PE lockers in the middle school program. So that'll be placed there along with some changes to the equipment, relatively simple changes to meet the middle school program. The bigger change here, of course, is the infill of this storage space to create theater arts, some support spaces, toilets, storage, instrumental music and choral music for the middle school program. And then finally, coming across that corridor that we saw, that connector corridor, the first floor of the Euclid building is crawl space. It's a little bit unusual because this is a 3-story building, but you travel from the corridor connection to what is the first occupiable space of that building, but we call it the second floor. Because the first floor is unoccupiable space, just crawl space and mechanical space. And then the third floor is classroom space. So this building is where maybe the least amount of changes will take place, but there will still be a refresh of finishes, lighting, HVAC systems, roofs, and also some upfit for some support spaces and CTE spaces. So this is our overall floor plan. Again, just coming back to what I just covered, some of the other things in terms of just overall modernization is that for the most part throughout the entire school, wherever we're touching a space and wherever the budget allows, we'll also be improving finishes. All of the lighting throughout the school will be modernized, new roofs, group toilets will all be renovated and made accessible, and then we have some new group toilets, new staff toilets, new HVAC systems. Yeah, so pretty much a complete refresh and modernization from that standpoint, definitely to improve the overall learning environment and teaching environment. So that's our overview. We just have a couple of renderings here.
This is what it would look like, not coming from Myrtle Ave, because this is the other way, but if you were standing on that sidewalk on Myrtle Ave, this is like what that new entrance would look like. You don't see it now, but you'll see, like Tom mentioned, that plaza space in the corner of the building, making it a more identifiable area. This is very much in progress. We're still in the middle of design, so please take note of that. And we are in the process right now of meeting with the Historic District Commission, like Tom mentioned. So a lot of these finishes that you see in like the bright whites are still in the works and yet to be decided.
Well, one of the things that Brian is working on here from a civil standpoint, and all of us too, although it's subtle, it kind of shows up here in this image. This is a beautiful campus in terms of all of the mature trees. They can be a great asset, but they can also be a challenge when it comes to the buildings, because overgrown trees also lead to issues with maintaining of buildings and sight lines and security and stuff. So we're working on some strategic relocation, perhaps of some trees, and definitely some pruning of some trees in order to make some things more accessible. All of that, of course, going through urban forestry, the Historic District Commission, arborists, in a very planned way.
This is another rough image, but this is what a more head-on view of that entrance would look like. Like Tom said, we can't create at this point like a 2-volume space to make it this like wow. But I think this is still going to be a very significant improvement to the flow of the campus and the building itself on the inside. So as you can see, our doors are kind of pushed in to give it more space. And again, a lot of these finishes are still in the works and yet to be decided. And this is the space that we're in right now. We're not redoing it. I mean, we're not like reinventing it. That's probably not the right word, but we are giving it the fresh finish look, where we're doing all the HVAC, where we're doing all the lighting. We'll probably have something that you see here in the back a little bit is right now we have 1 serving line. The plan is to add 2 serving lines that, correct me if I'm wrong, would serve up to 226 students along the line per period.
260, I believe.
260.
I think. Yeah, so that would allow for 3 lunch periods up to a maximum of about 260 students.
With the addition of that serving line.
Yeah. Using the existing space that we're in. But again, the big change here being the addition of that second serving line and the expansion of the kitchen to support that process.
Yes. And then obviously, like, behind this image, like Tom said before, this wall would be closed off to make way for the new science classrooms that are going to be on the other side.
Okay, well, I think that that's our overview. Again, we're thankful that we had the opportunity to present it to you. We appreciate it. We hope that you're as excited as a community about it as we are and CMS is, and we're looking forward to things coming to fruition. So I think Vincent's going to take over for some Q&A now.
Thank you so much, Tom, Alexandra. Great presentation. So earlier at the top of this meeting, we had our test. Now we're going to take it down just a little notch, and we're going to do a pop quiz. So back to your phones and the QR code. We are going to utilize your direct feedback. So before we get into the project-specific questions, as I mentioned earlier, we're always trying to improve our process and receive your direct feedback. So we, as it is fresh in your minds, we want to hear specifically from you. We have a few questions that we would like for you to answer after you scan the QR code there, and it'll bring up the questions that we have here in just a moment. All right. What is one new thing you learned about the project? All right. Why a new entrance? You're curious. Existing, upgraded, those third floor classrooms, you learned about that. Good. Not well planned. Thank you for that. New entrance. Great new thing. Keep them coming. Upgraded, no need for new entrance, no storage, all great things. I see the most exciting part is the new entrance, although we have questions about that, and we can certainly answer those. All right, very good, thank you. The next one we have here is, how would you rate the presentation? This presentation alone, we're asking about the structure of the presentation. Was it valuable to you? And were your questions answered? How was this presentation structured? Meaning, was there any other information that you would have liked to have seen within the presentation? Was it valuable to you? Did it have an impact on your understanding? Did it create more questions? That's a good thing too, because there are always things, we're just a single group here of collective minds. We certainly want your user interaction and feedback. And then, were your questions answered? Certainly this is just a blind question, meaning we have not heard from you yet, but our effort is to improve not only this presentation that we're going to have moving forward, but also the presentations that we do throughout the district. So we want to prepare ourselves more based upon your interaction and feedback about how well we are doing. All right, we're tracking pretty good here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So at this time, Gary Adams is going to join us as well too, and we're now going to open it up to a Q&A session. We have one of our staff here that is walking around with microphone, Mr. Mike here, and I'm also going to help out and pass along a microphone as well too, and I'll hand this one to you.
Hello, can you hear me? All right, so I've got a question on this new entrance and the cars. Being a magnet school, you would expect to have more parents driving because you're not a neighborhood school, and you're moving the entrance down, but the carpool lane today goes essentially to that spot. So how are you intending to get more cars in without reconfiguring the actual driveway?
Thank you. So the part of the reason for moving the entrance is so that we can configure the front entry the way we do for our all our other schools, so to get our secure vestibule in. So the way the existing conditions are for the existing school now makes that very difficult. So we are going to move that, and it will help get a little bit more queuing length. Obviously, we are limited with the site as to how much we can get on there. That is true. I believe we do get a few more cars in the queuing length to do that. And again, will also allow us to configure the admin spaces, which we don't have all of those in the current school, to be able to configure those as well, how we would normally do that.
Just a question from a current Dilworth Elementary family. Back when this whole process was started, and we were told your elementary school is moving way down Park Road, and the reason for that is because there is absolutely no way this current building can go under any renovation. Period. That's it. That's what we were told. So help me understand, when we were told that we couldn't renovate this building for an elementary school, how are we able to renovate the building?
I'm not sure, sorry, I'm not sure the source of that comment, so I really can't speak to that. We certainly can renovate the building. What I'm going to assume what the comment you may have heard was referring to was to be able to produce a baseline CMS school on the site, which we are not able to do, again, given the limitations with the site and the existing building. So that's all I can assume that comment was referring to.
Can I just ask a follow-up? So why can't this be a baseline CMS school?
The size of the site will not allow us to build that on the site.
What was your question?
I think we just want to understand what size does it need to be. So just to clarify, why does this have to be a magnet instead of a neighborhood school? And then why do we have to move, miles away and go backwards to take our kids to school when we're all in this neighborhood? So if you guys can update it to middle school, why couldn't you have updated it to the elementary school that it was to standards?
So to build a baseline CMS elementary school, depending on the site, there are a lot of parameters that go along with that. Requires at least 15 to 20 acres for us to do that. And given we don't own the fields, obviously those are county owned, so we would not be able to fit a school on this site for a baseline CMS elementary school.
We're holding the same amount of kids today that are going to be at the next school, essentially.
Let me get you on mic.
Sorry. We're essentially moving the same group of kids. We do have a couple more coming in, but it's not a significant amount that we're going to the new school. It's not like you guys have upgraded us a ton. We're going to go in at 86% capacity as is. So it's not like all of a sudden you said, okay, this area is growing. Let's make sure we can keep up with the growth. We're going to give you a new school that can fit, 850, 900 kids. You're building a new school that fits essentially what we've gotten squeezed in here.
So our new school on Park Road, the new school, elementary school at Park Road, will be a baseline CMS school. So that's 45 classrooms for an elementary school with a planned amount for 900 students.
Yeah. Oh, hey, thank you. My understanding is Dilworth Elementary has been around for plus or minus 100 years. So is the baseline definition evolving to all of a sudden eliminate this from a potential neighborhood elementary school that meets those standards? We're not talking about a school that was built 15 years ago or repurposed, a couple years ago. There's a rich history. I think you just took us through that presentation that illustrated that. So what's changed over this time to kind of disqualify this to becoming a baseline neighborhood school?
So I think the presentation that we talked about are focused on the design and logistics of this project. So I would say nothing has really changed recently from the CMS standard of a 45 classroom project. I don't know, Terry, if there may be anything else you want to add to that for that question. Could you repeat the question?
They didn't understand the question.
Sure. So what I'm struggling to understand is, you made reference to this no longer being in line with a baseline CMS school, but the elementary school has been around for, someone correct me the exact time frame, but almost 100 years. Has the baseline definition changed, or what's changed that triggered this whole evolution of moving and reshuffling and a year and a half worth of construction, dealing with the historic district, changing the historic standard? It seems like it's quite a large undertaking without accomplishing much in the process.
So to answer part of that question, the existing school is not the CMS baseline standard for an elementary, so that is true, and we are building that at Park Road. So just wanted to address that, at least that piece of the question.
Let me also say, too, that there won't be the amount of people here that there's not going to be 700 students here. There'll be less than 500 students here is what our plan is. So that makes up for a lot of the space difference that you're speaking of, that we can't have the 45 classrooms. Yes.
Sorry, I'm going to give you a two-parter. So one, what is the proposed capacity of the new middle school that would be coming? And then with that proposed capacity, whatever it is, what are the plans to see if local families are coming? Is it fully magnet? Is it partially magnet? Like, how does this affect our community if our kids can't come?
So let me say that tonight is strictly about the refresh and uplift to make this a middle school. There has been very little and no decisions made on whether or not it will be a traditional school or it will have a program within the school.
With that being said, if you just said less than 500 kids will be here, I think where those of us that have been through this for a minute are a little bit confused. Because if you make it a traditional neighborhood school of any sort, we already know that you then can't control how many kids are zoned for it, and that, I guess, does that just not put you in the exact same spot again in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, as we've proven this area keeps growing?
Exactly. So let me go back again to say that I'm not saying this won't be a choice program. We're saying that there has been no decisions made. Tonight was strictly an operational function that gave you the parameters of the uplift.
But how do you know how to uplift it if you don't know who's coming in? And just as an example, right? If it becomes a STEM program, great. Don't we need different classrooms than if it becomes the new visual arts school or the new whatever else? So how are you putting the uplift before the thought process into what it becomes? I think that's my question. Yes.
So the spaces we are designing are going to be flexible. So much of the things that go into those classrooms, like the ones you just mentioned, would in large part be accommodated by what we refer to as FF&E, so furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So the type of things that you're putting in those classrooms. So the classrooms are many of which are designed to be very flexible. So a maker space, even our general classrooms, that type of thing, the science classrooms. So that's where we get the flexibility with the FF&E component to that. The things we're doing as part of the project that the design team went over, those are very much our standard spaces for a middle school program. And so we feel that we will have that flexibility when we get to the point of knowing the program.
I have a question. So you guys talked about I'm right here, about the construction. I'm Shauna, I'm the facility manager at Tom Sykes. About the construction time, and you'll be having it fenced in, but during certain times you can use the tennis courts, the soccer fields, and then our facility. But then I think there was a 4 to 6 month period where access points can't be. Is that like we could still use the facility, or we just can't use that entrance? What does that look like? Like, are we getting close now?
So, actually, if we could jump right back to it, Tom. So that 4 to 6 months, as Tom had mentioned, is referring to the amount of construction that happens in the space for below the gymnasium. So that converting that open space that'll become the CMS academic spaces, that's what that duration is referring to. So then the time frame that you may need to, adjust your calendar and schedule, that was what Tom was saying still needs to be determined. It is not that 4 to 6 months impact for your space.
So all of our stuff is there, including all of our partner stuff, so our Charlotte-Mecklenburg soccer, GCBA. Where is that stuff going? And is there been like any talks with Park and Rec about this shared space and if there's going to be stores allocated for us?
And that's the beginning of it. Because like they mentioned, this is the early part of the design, and we're just getting started on figuring all these things out, and that's the partnership that we'll have with you on coordinating all that.
I have one more thing. During construction, has there been talks about potentially making this a bus stop for the community to go to the next during construction time? Sorry. I don't know if this has been talked about with the school, but will this be a bus stop for kids from this community to go to the new school? Or has that not been, I'm just wondering, during the construction time, is people going to be able to get bused from this community to the new school?
No, we don't have this information on that side. That's a great question that this department cannot answer. And you had?
I know. We got the same problem.
I know it's not, but if it's fenced, we could obviously be there, correct? Is that, I don't know. Is that making sense?
Yeah, but.
Hi, I work for Park and Recreation. I'm Heidi Kitterman, the regional manager, and I just wanted to, since I'm just hearing a little bit about the plans tonight, is it for sure that you're going to have a middle school with 6th, 7th, 8th graders here only, or is there an opportunity to have the K through 8 magnet come here?
Again, those decisions, again, have not been made. So, but again, that is not this group's, purview. So, it's our understanding it will be middle school. That's the direction we're heading in.
I'm going to get this lady here, Shed.
I know we're not talking about the magnet programs this evening, but in the timeline, would that actually pop off so people would know what this is going to be?
Again, I'd have to give that to Terry to try and respond to.
So there's a process that we have to go through to be able to make the decision of if there'll be a choice program and what that choice program will be. That is in the very, very beginning stages of even being talked about, much less taking a recommendation to the board or any of those types of things. So to give you a timeline,
I mean, if it's opening in 27, 28, just so we have some expectation in the next 2 years, or is that a year and a half?
It's a year and a half
Year
away.
and a half, right, sorry.
Yes.
So, but just, that's,
So-
people are planning for their middle schools. So, is there just some
So
worst case scenario?
I'm thinking early 2026.
Okay.
To be able to have some kind of ideas of what might be recommended to be in here.
Okay, thank you.
So I've got a question on these rooms that are under the gym. If they can use them for the middle school, why can't we use them now when we have our specialist teachers on a cart?
It's not a room, They're not rooms, it's just a big open area with rocks.
It's unfinished space. Yeah, so there are no finished spaces down there that those will be constructed.
As the decision for the type of middle school that will ultimately make its way onto this campus, are you planning to work with a particular association to gather the Dilworth community feedback, and/or who would that be so that people who want to give feedback can?
Terry, that may be something you want to address, but I'm sure CMS and that team would be open to any feedback that they can get.
But through whom? That's the question. We need to know who. So sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
Are you going to take feedback? Is CMS open to taking feedback from the Dilworth community? And if so, who does the community need to work through in order to make sure that we give you that feedback in an adequate time? Because the 2027 school year is really not that far away when you plan construction and everything else along the way.
Are you talking about feedback about the construction of the building or of the program that may or may not go in? Of the program?
This is the way you give feedback.
Well, I see a lot of familiar faces out here.
So if you're trying to solicit feedback from individual people, is there an opportunity to work through an organized program to organize the community's feedback to work in tandem with CMS as you make this decision? The Dilworth Community Association, other avenues to be able to consolidate a large number of people, because we're all affected by this, and it feels like decisions are being made with unclear timelines, uncertain avenues to provide adequate feedback across more than the 50 people in this room.
Well, we in the choice department have made no decisions. So, as I was saying, I see a lot of familiar faces in here because we've been out in the Dilworth community. So we do love the feedback of the community. We bring in a company called RTI. They manage that feedback and give that to our board. So we would do that again when that time comes. But again, this is all operational and not anything choice out of the choice office. So we have made no decisions at this time.
Is there a contingency plan if the new school, let me go back. At what point are we okay to start construction on this school because we're positive we're going into the new school next year?
There is certainly no concern about getting the new Park Road School completed. So that is on schedule. So we feel comfortable moving forward with all this work. Yeah.
But let's say there's a lot of rain and construction gets delayed for whatever reason. Then what?
We will adjust to that, but we have certainly overcome those hurdles before. So.
You mentioned classrooms for CTE. Do you mind elaborating on that? Is that common for middle schools to have those programs or spaces? Do you mind just explaining that, please?
It is. So we will typically have CTE classrooms in the middle school program. Again, as I mentioned earlier, those are very flexible, so that.
Could you define the acronym, please, for everyone before you?
I'm sorry, CTE?
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's a career technical enhancement, so education, excuse me. So those are, run a wide gamut of subjects. But again, for middle school, those rooms would be very flexible. And again, it's a lot of the materials that they will bring in or the subjects that they're teaching that are specific to that subject.
Current design, what's the net increase or decrease in the student capacity compared to current state? I've heard 500, I've heard lunch can serve 3 periods of 260 students max. What's the net increase or decrease in the students being served in the new design versus the students we have today?
Tom, how many classrooms, what is the difference in classrooms for existing to new?
Is it 30 classrooms in the new design? I don't know how many we have today.
30 in the new design. 30 in the new design. We're probably going, I would say 36. I don't have all the answers. I don't have those, but I'm pretty sure it's about 36 currently. Because we're absorbing some for science, but then we're creating some for electives.
And that's something we can look into and share as well.
Yeah.
Typically, we will have more students in a middle school classroom setting than elementary. Any other questions? I'm back here.
I more so have a comment. And first of all, thank you all for standing up here and presenting to us about what the new design looks like and what we're aiming for. I think you can probably hear a lot of frustration or questions that don't necessarily have to do with the design. Because I think it's confusing to us to be sitting here and talking about a design of the building when we don't necessarily know yet what will be here. And so that's just feedback, where I think that's where you're hearing a lot of us ask questions that aren't necessarily towards the design because of that confusion. And just to caveat that, I think there would be more questions in the future when we know what will be here. I don't know what questions to ask right now.
Sure. Thank you. Any others that we can help with related to the design or the construction?
Hey, I'm sorry to keep belaboring the point, but a big concern as we're kind of hearing all this is we don't know yet what it's going to be, and there's no opportunity to provide a unified voice from the community on the type of school we would like this to become. And so is there an organization that we can coordinate with to be able to provide perspective from the community as the decision is made on the type of school that ultimately lands here?
I don't believe we have anything further to offer than what Terry responded to earlier on that question.
So the only way to provide feedback is individually providing feedback via the website. That doesn't feel like a full representation from the Dilworth community on the type of school that's ultimately going to land here. So can we reconsider, since it hasn't been decided yet, and can we work through a professional organization that can represent the Dilworth community to provide that input?
I am not able to respond to that question. I think Ms. Surbeck responded to that. I would, again, welcome you to take the route that she has offered there. Okay. If no other questions, thank you for attending. Appreciate the input on the design and construction, and certainly welcome any other feedback that you have. Thank you.